McMinnville UFO Festival returns today. We were talking about it this week on the show. 74 years ago that this famous McMinnville UFO photograph was taken. Since then, people all across Oregon have been looking to the skies in the hopes of catching a similar glimpse of something possibly from another world.
Yeah, so what do you do, or who do you call when you see a UFO or a UAP in the Oregon skies? Emma Jerome spoke to a man who heads up a local chapter of one of the largest UFO investigation groups. She joins us now with what he had to say. Emma?
Yeah, well, first I would call my mom, and then I would call this guy. UFOs are mostly known now as UAPs. That stands for Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, and there's a lot going on in the night sky. A lot of it can be solved with a little legwork, but sometimes you can't quite be sure of what someone saw because it could be something otherworldly. I recently spoke with the man who investigates these sightings and searches for the truth. What happens when you think you've seen something unexplainable? Who do you call?
It's, in my opinion, the most strongest and most productive organization that exists in the entire world that investigates this subject matter.
MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, is a nonprofit that studies UFOs and their sightings around the U.S. Founded in 1969 in the Midwest, MUFON now boasts more than 5,000 members worldwide, according to Tom Bowden, the Oregon State Director for the organization. They do the work to bring the unknown down to earth.
There are other military organizations in the United States and other countries that investigate UFOs, but they don't talk publicly about it.
Bowden became interested as a young boy, and as he grew up, he only got more obsessed with the thought of life beyond the clouds. Now he investigates close encounters reported by Oregonians.
MUFON's definition of a close encounter is anytime a human has an incident where they're closer than 500 feet or within 500 feet of an unusual or anomalous object.
According to Bowden, someone that close could see their life change.
There's often other effects, like either messages that they get, telepathic messages, or they feel physical effects, like maybe electronic disturbances or things like that.
I asked him when he thought UFOs went from being urban legend to something accepted by the scientific community.
Going back centuries and maybe longer, maybe millennia, people have explained strange things. And to some people it becomes a religious experience. They may think that they're seeing angels or demons or whatever. But these kind of experiences go way back in human history.
Oregon has a deep history with UFOs. It was May 11th, 1950, when McMinnville farmer Paul Trent and his wife Evelyn saw something strange in the sky and caught it on film.
Now, the original negatives were studied and analyzed exhaustively by a number of people, and the best experts have concluded that it's a genuine photo. It wasn't faked. Paul and Evelyn Trent were just plain old farmers.
And Tom is not the only one obsessed with the extraterrestrial.
We always have to be certain about what's in our airspace. For either national security concerns or for aviation safety, we have to understand what's around us, and we have to be able to respond to any potential threats.
Ryan Graves is a former U.S. Navy fighter pilot and executive director of Americans for Safe Aerospace. He's also a featured speaker at this weekend's UFO Fest in McMinnville. Graves and his organization are working with lawmakers on legislation to make it easier for pilots at all levels to report UFO incidents, even testifying before Congress about the matter.
This is an area where the United States is losing the battle, this so-called gray zone, where there are actions being put forward against our military, whether it's here or abroad, that don't necessarily require a military response.
Graves says last summer's congressional hearing on UFOs helped clear away some of the stigma around the topic, and regular people who were maybe too afraid to talk before are talking now.
It's really opened up the floodgates, at least within the pilot community. Pilots are much more open to engaging in this conversation in the cockpit, on the radio, and in public as well.
I asked Tom how MUFON investigates sightings to find them credible. He says they collect as much data as possible, and that's more than just the weather report.
We want to assess their credibility and what kind of person, what their maybe their education background, their knowledge base. You know, are they a down-to-earth person, or are they someone that maybe is given to, you know, flights of fantasy? And if we can match that light to an aircraft and the object doesn't make any movements that are unusual for a man-made aircraft, then we would usually conclude that they actually saw an aircraft.
The recent acknowledgement from our government that said, yeah, there are UFOs out there, does that surprise you, or does it at all change the work that you guys do?
It doesn't surprise me. We've been moving in that direction for quite a while. I can tell you one thing, it's unrealistic to believe that they would reveal all the secrets, because some of the stuff is downright embarrassingly strange, and they don't really, a lot of the people involved, they don't really know how to deal with it, because it's too weird, really, you know, for them to deal with.
So what should you do if you think you've seen a UFO?
Just pay attention to the details. What did you see? What time was it? You know, date and time. Where was I? What direction was I looking?
And you can be an investigator for MUFON if you want to. They have training guides that you can get your hands on. I was talking with Tom for over an hour, and I was left with more questions than answers, because that's how expansive this is. And he was saying, you might have heard a lot of geese there. He goes, every time I try to talk about this, they try to interrupt.
Maybe they have questions too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they probably see more than we do.
That's true.
Very
That's
true. Well, so I'm curious, after chatting with Tom, has your opinion of UFOs changed at all?
Absolutely. I don't know if I was ever like a denier, but I've kind of gone with the general diaspora of people believing in UFOs and stuff, and now I'm way more on board with the whole life beyond the stars than I was.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
I do think, you know, it's interesting to see some of the testimony that has come from some pilots and, you know, the U.S. military in recent years. Whether it's aliens or not, there have certainly been things in our skies that we have asked questions about that have not been fully revealed.
Well, and to that point, when you say, you know, UAP, you're just saying unidentified. You're not saying alien.
Right.
You know, and so when you go back to that congressional testimony and hearing from Ryan Graves there, I think that's the stuff that really gets me keyed in, where it's like, people are really seeing this.
And the conversation has gotten a little more scientific, and I think that's to the benefit of everyone. So,
All right, well, interesting. Thanks, Emma. All right, 7:22 right now, and AM Extra is still getting going, and still ahead, something new for those true crime fans out there. We got a sneak peek of a new 48 Hours investigation.